Greetings. Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday, April 16th. Welcome to my live. And I wanted to start by asking if my mods are here. Um, so I can also, I want to acknowledge you. Kat, are you here? Oh, thank you, Kat. Kat 7.7, one of my mods. And I think I have a couple more. So let me know if you're here, mods. And we got another person who wants to be a mod. Okay, let me see if I can add you. Oh, I forgot how. All right. Well, I can't remember right now, but if you're a mod already, so Mary Blue Raven is offering to be a mod as well. So thank you. I'm going to see if I can add you. I just got to remember how to do it. But if you are a mod already, just let me know in the comments, and then I'll acknowledge you. So welcome, everybody. Let me know where you are zooming in from or streaming in from. We got Portland in the house, Nova Scotia, sister, Nova Scotia, Scranton, Pennsylvania, Loveland, Colorado, Coastal Mountains of Oregon. Who else? Let's see. Oh, Plumtree said it's apple blossom time in Portland, Oregon. Yay. Ipswich, New Hampshire. St. Pete, Florida. Sherman Oaks, I assume Sherman Oaks, California. New Orleans, Kansas City, Missouri. Springfield, Oregon. Georgia in the house. Chicagoland, my hometown. Clear Lake, California. Cleveland. Okay, great to have you all. So tonight, we got Charlotte, Annapolis, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Massachusetts, Ontario, Sister Canada in the house, Maryland, Iowa, Los Angeles. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We've got a lot to talk about. So today, like last week, I'm going to talk a little bit about, some Metatron, not the news issues. And then I'm going to take your questions live, not personal questions, but political questions, spiritual questions. And I'm going to answer them during the live. Albuquerque, Iowa. And if you're one of my mods, please let me know in the comments, so I can make sure I have enough mods. We've always had enough mods, but last week it seems like there was something that happened. I don't remember. I didn't see what it was. So that's why I'm asking about the mods. I got to put the comments on the stage. You guys like to see the comments? Nova Scotia. All right. So I wanted to talk. I did a post earlier today, so I'm just going to recap a little of that and maybe expand on it. Australia's here. Oh, there's another mod, Rossi. Thank you, Rossi. Rossi's 1111 or Rossi's 1111. You've been my mod for quite a while. Thank you for being here. All right. So there's a lot going on right now, right? So let's talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about everything that's going on right now and how it relates to the bigger picture. We've got 257 people in the room. Welcome, everybody. So I see I'm very excited about everything that's going on. Because when I get excited, it's because I've been told things are going to happen. And then I start to see signs that they're happening. And then I get excited, right? So one of the big things that my spirit guides have been saying from the beginning is that the whole purpose of Head Clown, the whole reason for his existence, the whole reason he cheated his way into the seat is so that he could destroy a lot of structures and reveal a lot of, ugly to us, to the world. And that we needed to see that, and we needed to go through this in order for us to wake up, right? And so that's like the bigger context of why we're going through this. And so whenever I see major destruction going on or a reshuffling of power structure, to me, that's just confirmation of what my guide said. And that means we're closer to the end of the old world and the beginning of the new world. And so that's what makes me excited, right? So what's going on right now? There's a whole lot of power restructuring happening, especially with regard to the conflict in Persia. And I just want to let you know that Amy Goodrich, I do see your question. I just want to talk a little bit first, and then I'm gonna start answering questions. So hold your question, and I will get to it. So what's going on right now? There's a whole lot of power restructuring. So today we even had the foreign minister of the Saudi land actually make a speech and say, look, we no longer trust the US and we're no longer going to rely on them to protect us in the region. Things have changed. So people are starting to publicly speak about the fact that the global structure is changing. Also with Europe, we have, 30 different countries, 40 countries, including France, have made their own deal with Persia. They're just going around the stars and stripes. They're not even dealing with us anymore. They're like, we can't trust you. We're going to make our own arrangement. And then we have 23 different European countries who have ended their defense agreement with it's not real. So again, they all had that deal with them because of us. And they're just bypassing us and saying, we're going to make our own decisions now. And then with regard to this so-called blockade, and, let me know in the comments what you've heard, because from what I've seen on different, non-US news sources, there is no real blockade happening. There's apparently a lot of ships that are continuing to transit the strait and they're not being stopped. Of course, our circus claims they are stopping them. I don't know. So let me know in the comments what you're seeing, because we got some people in here from Australia and Canada and different countries. What is your press telling you? Because, we don't really have much in the way of free press here. We have some alternative press, but I mostly rely on foreign press to get my news these days. And the foreign press is saying, what blockade? Now, also, Persia is saying, if you don't end this effort to interfere with trade, we're going to start controlling traffic through the Red Sea and also through, I think it's Oman, another transit near another port. And so, and then we also have Russia and China, who are also trading with and selling arms to Persia. So what all of that is to me is evidence of what my guide said, which is that the nature of global power is being restructured right now. The US used to be in charge of everything, and they used to determine a lot of trade. They used to have their hand in a lot of pies, and a lot of people deferred to us. Also, one of the things that I said that I think is happening is that the petrodollar is going to change. And so one of the reasons why the U.S. has so much economic power in the world is because of our control of the petrodollar and of oil in that region. Well, now all of these GCC countries are saying they don't necessarily want to be our allies anymore. So that's a major global restructure as well. So this is all good. So we have this global restructure happening, and then we also have some stuff going on domestically. So we have 50 different lawmakers in our Congress who have put together a bill to try to enact the 25th Amendment using a council instead of relying on the cabinet. And so this takes me to the question that Amy Goodrich is asking. Thank you for the donation. Do you think the council being formed could be the council we all dreamed about? I do. It could be one of them. So for those who aren't caught up on the news, let me just give you a short summary of it. In the Constitution, it says that the head clown, I don't know how careful I have to be, so I'm going to be careful with my language. The head clown can be taken out following a particular procedure. And the procedure that most of us are aware of is the one where his cabinet has to be the ones to determine that he's unfit for office. So that would be his vice clown and his, his cabinet. These are all the people that he chose, right? So these are the people most loyal to him. So these are the people least likely to say, this guy's maybe a little crazy, right? So a lot of people have been feeling like, oh, that's never going to happen. But it turns out that in the Constitution, that's not the only way to remove that person from office. There's another way, and it has some vague language that says, like, the Congress can pass something to form some type of organizing body to evaluate the fitness of the clown. And so that's what they're now trying to do. And some people are saying that's going to be a council. So one of the predictions that a lot of us made, and that as Amy pointed out, a lot of people dreamed, was that in the future, we were going to have a different type of government. It wasn't going to be this top-down hierarchical president, vice president, situation, but it was going to be a government of a council of people working together, which is more like indigenous, more feminine, right, way of governing. So I saw this. A lot of other dreaming women and dreaming people saw this, and I think it's going to be a transition. So, like, what I've seen is that there's not going to be our current structure in the future. There's not going to be the executive branch and these other branches. And what we're seeing right now is how broken it is, right? So up until, this circus came to town, we had this kind of illusion that we had checks and balances. We thought, well, we don't have to worry about any one of these branches ever getting too powerful because the other branches are going to provide checks and balances onto those branches, right? That's what we thought. And what this circus has shown us is how easy it is to subvert that structure, because now we have a circus where there are no checks on this circus at all. The judiciary is not, there is some checks. So there are some courts that are ruling. There are a lot of rulings against the circus. However, they have no way to enforce it. So even though a lot of rulings have passed against head clown in the circus, nothing's being done about it, right? So they're violating the judgments. Like, for example, Blondie, there's a subpoena. She's supposed to come and speak to the Congress. If you don't follow a subpoena, you're considered in contempt and you can be arrested. But they're not arresting her, right? So that's the same is true for all of these court rulings, is that every time you don't follow a court ruling, you're in contempt, you can be arrested. Well, no one's getting arrested. So what that means is that there's no way to enforce these rulings. So the judiciary has lost its teeth. And then the Supreme Judiciary, right, is completely paid off. Not completely, but most of them are paid off by the circus. And then the legislative branch is completely controlled by the cult. And so the blue hats, they're trying to do stuff, but they're in the minority, and they're constantly trying to convince the red hats to vote alongside them. And most of the time the red hats won't, because they're in the cult. So we in effect have no checks and balances, right? So what we're seeing, what's being revealed to us, is how broken our system is. What's also being revealed to us is how corrupt our system is, how it's in bed with corporations, and how the people who are in office are all, they're millionaires. They're all connected to corporations. They're all connected to a certain strata of our society, and they're not beholden to the people. They don't care about the people. And so that's kind of all coming to light. Of course, there were always people who were aware of this, but it used to be just a fringe group of us who were aware of this, right? There were like some leftists who were like, hey, get money out of politics, and we need campaign reform. And right there, I've been one of those people, right, for years. But the vast majority of Americans were not aware of the extent to which our offices were corrupt or in bed with it's not real, packy pack money, other types of pack money, corporate lobbies, right? A lot of people just weren't aware of that. This circus is kind of bringing that all to the surface, right? And that's the silver lining. That's the positive part of what we're going through, is that we are all becoming more aware of the true nature of our government. And what that's revealing to a lot of people is how broken it is and how much we're in need of something else. And the something else that a lot of us have seen in the future is a council, governing by a council with a lot of women. Because what we've had for the last 250 years is a whole lot of wealthy, palm-colored, mostly older men running everything in our country, from all of our corporations to all of our legislative and executive and judicial bodies. And that needs to change. And it's changing because we're also in this era of the rise of the divine feminine, right? And so we're seeing that with the way a lot of things that are happening, right? With the way women are changing, right? And no longer putting up with things they used to put up with. We have the birth rate going down. We have the marriage rate going down. We have women, just a lot of women speaking out about patriarchy in ways that they weren't before. And so we have a lot of changes happening. So the council, so they're proposing that they're going to set up this committee or council to evaluate the mental fitness of head clown. And people are asking, is that the council? I think it's one of the councils. It's kind of moving us in that direction. Another council to look at is, when Biden left office, him and Kamala, him and Harris, right? They created a secession, right? Like the week before the inauguration, they created this special secession procedure for what to do if something happens and the normal lines of secession can't be followed. What are we going to do? And so people saw that and they're like, okay, what do they know that we don't know? I think what they knew was that what's coming is coming, right? And so, because it's not just going to be that he's going to be taken out, it's going to be more than him. And so a lot of people are like, oh, well, if we get rid of head clown, we got to deal with assistant clown, and he's worse. He's in the pocket of teal clown, and he's, aligned with all of these nefarious corporate interests, and he's not an improvement. But in fact, he is, because he doesn't have the power that head clown does. He doesn't have the spiritual power. Head clown has a lot of demonic energy behind him. He's got a lot of, the reason he's Teflon coated is because he does have a lot of spirits working for him and a lot of rituals that have been done for him. And so this whole network of bad traffic, part of that bad traffic is rituals, right? Satanic type rituals that produce power and harvest power from victims. And so that's like a whole nother conversation. And I'm just going to mention it in passing, just to let you know that this particular person has a lot of power that other people don't have. He also has a lot of power because of all of the blackmail he has on people. So that's how he has power over people. And Couch Clown doesn't have that power spiritually, and he also doesn't have that blackmail power. So if power shifts from head clown to assistant clown, it will be a dramatic change. But also, assistant clown is not going to be in office very long. It's going to transition from that to some type of transitional government, some type of council, some type of group of people who come in to temporarily take charge of things while we as a country figure out what we're going to do next. So that's what a lot of us have seen. And I think all of this talk and actual action finally around the 25th Amendment is seeing us get closer and closer to that transitional government where there's going to be some council. Okay. Mexico in the house. Welcome, Sister Mexico. So let me see if there's more questions. So I'm going to answer some questions. There was more things I was going to talk about. So I did post about it earlier, but I like to in my lives go over stuff in case people didn't see that. Just like recent news. I mean, another thing that I haven't talked about yet that I wanted to mention with regard to the rise of the divine feminine is this really horrible news that came out. Was it today or yesterday, about this online forum of men that are teaching other men how to drug and grape their wives and girlfriends and just women in general, and how there are 62 million men who have visited this site in the last month. They're calling it a Grape Academy. This has just come out, and I think this is really important that it came out, because remember, this is the period of revelation, and the more that gets revealed, the more people will wake up. And so even though we've been living in a grape culture for a long time and women have been talking about it for a long time, there was a lot of plausible deniability, right? There were a lot, not all men. There were a lot of men who were like, well, that's not me. I'm a good guy. And it was always like the burden of women to try to prove that this was a widespread systematic problem instead of it being just a few bad apples. And what's happening is that things are coming out like this Grape Academy to make it very, very obvious to everybody how widespread and systematic this is. 62 million men is not a few bad apples, right? That's a widespread, systematic, endemic problem. Because these are not just people who are like making jokes about grape. These are people who are going into a Grape Academy to get lessons on how to carry out those activities and how not to get caught. That's the purpose of the academy. Okay. So 62 million men in 1 month. That's just 1 month. Like, let's say it went on for a year. It's going to be a lot more than 62 million, right? So this coming out is the period of revelation, the rise of the divine feminine, the fall of patriarchy. This is evidence of that. That's how I see it. And so we always have to look at this bigger picture. Instead of getting fearful and despairing over bad news that we hear, we have to always be asking ourselves, how does this fit into the big picture? Is this a sign that we're progressing? Is this a sign that revelations are happening? Is this a sign that old structures are possibly being destroyed to make room for new structures? This is the way I want you to be always evaluating news when you get it. Yeah, Swalwell, right? Another example. This person said, Al Mock said, oh, I'm a good guy, right? Not according to 5 different women so far. I think it's been, as of yesterday, is it more than 5 today? 5 different women have come forward with allegations of SA against this one lawmaker, right? And now this was also an example of what my guides predicted. They said that when it came to the files, what the red hats were going to do was they were going to keep trying to focus on blue hat perpetrators to try to make it a blue hat thing. And so, of course, the reason why Swalwell was immediately removed from office is because he's a blue hat, right? They're not concerned about all the red hats who are in the files. They're not concerned about the head clown who's had 35 different judgments against him for SA of different types, and have had many, many accusers. They're not trying to take him out of office, right? So they don't care about SA. They don't care about PDFery. They care about using it for political exigency. So they got rid of him because he was a blue hat. But we're fine with that because we don't care what hat you wear. If you're an SAer or a PDFer, you got to go. And they thought that they could just have our attention be focused on certain perpetrators, but it's not, because right after this guy got taken out, there's another guy, his name Gonzalez, a red hat, who also got taken out of office. So it's not going to be a political party thing. They're going to try, but it's not. It's going to be revealing all of the perpetrators thing. We're just going to keep revealing them. And so along those same lines, we're having progress on the files with regard to Mrs. Head Clown and her stupid speech, right? So she gives a stupid speech about, oh, I'm not involved with these bad characters in the files. And of course, we already know she's lying because we already have files which show that she was friends with them. We have emails. It's like, why lie about things everyone knows is true? That's just ridiculous, right? But it's like the height of arrogance, right? And so now we have people like Amanda, this model from Brazil, and we have a second woman, I'm forgetting her name, who have come forward, one survivor and one colleague who are from the same circle, who are coming forward and saying, oh yeah, she was friends with those people, she was involved. I know because I was there. And so that's going to keep happening. Okay, so let me see. I'm going to look for questions now. I don't know what rain is at. I don't know that. I don't understand that question. Oh yeah, people are also, there's now more and more evidence coming out about this person being alive. This, what is this, St. Pete, Palm Beach Pete? Okay, looking for questions. That's another question I don't know about. I'm going to put it up here anyway, because sorry for the switching. What do you think of the big boom makers being put in the sky by Russia? I haven't heard of this. Some are saying this is where the missing scientists went. I do think the missing scientist topic is really interesting. I haven't heard about this, but I'll just see if I pick up anything. We don't have to worry about anything that anyone puts in the sky because the star beings are here and they're not going to let any Newtonian weapons happen. So I don't know if the kaboom you're talking about is a Newtonian kind, that one in the sky by Russia. But if it is, we don't have to worry about it because the star beings are here and they're making sure that we cannot activate those types of kabooms, no matter who tries to activate it, whether it's our clown or their clown, it's not going to happen. So do not worry about that. I agree with Laura Casey saying that, Carl Jung, he's a Western psychologist, talked about the importance of facing our shadow. And that's become a very popular topic in the West. Everyone got to face their shadow. It's become kind of a thing that people talk about. I think we're facing our shadow as a collective, Laura says. And I agree. We are, as a country, certainly, but also worldwide. That's why the Epi-files had to come out, because this is something that's been going on for a long time, but we weren't all aware of it and it needed to come out. So here's a question from Kat, one of my mods. Have you had any messages about DACA in particular and immigration? I did get some messages about immigration and the frozen water that I may have mentioned, and I was realizing recently I haven't talked about it much lately. What I saw the last time I tuned into the frozen water was that after all of those big campaigns in cities where they were just trying to just do as much damage as possible in this little amount of time as possible, which culminated in Minnesota, they realized they had to change their strategy. And so I saw them completely changing their strategy. And they're no longer going after cities in big groups, and they've decided to spread out across the country and to go on these little stealth campaigns where they just send in a couple agents to a house to kidnap one person, instead of going into businesses and kidnapping 20 people at once, or going into downtown and raiding stores, right? They're now doing these small little kidnappings of individuals, and they've completely changed their strategy. That's what I was shown about a month or so ago. And I just saw some evidence for it recently in a news clip about how they're because rapid response was really effective in terms of documenting kidnappings, and also in some cases stopping kidnappings, and also like providing resources to the kidnapped's family, warning people that frozen water was in the neighborhood, right? Rapid response was really good at that in a lot of cities. And so frozen water, and most obviously in Minnesota, right? And so frozen water decided they had to change their strategy. So that's one thing that I've been shown. I've also been shown that just in general that they just are going to keep encountering obstacle after obstacle from the people. And so the more recent obstacles have been these warehouses that they're having a really hard time building. They're having a hard time buying them. There's a lot of people obstructing that. Some cities are refusing to provide water or sewage to the warehouses, and they're encountering this problem nationwide. And that's going to continue, right? There's also starting to be a movement particularly focused on Dilley, a warehouse center where children are being harmed. And one thing that I was shown quite a while ago, which I feel like there's starting to be some chat about, is that the frozen water warehousing project is intimately connected to the bad traffic. And so the young women, the teenagers, the young girls, and some boys are being trafficked through detention, right? And we're starting to see some evidence of that with talk that's coming out about a special wing in one of the facilities of pregnant teen girls that were not pregnant when they were detained. So what does that tell us, right? That's just proof that they're being essayed in there. Now, I don't like to talk a lot about this. I know we've talked about it a couple times now, and I know it's going to be triggering for people. So just so you know, I'm not going to continue to talk about SA for the rest of this live. I'm just bringing this up in answer to this question, and then we're going to leave it there. We're not going to keep talking about it. The only reason I'm talking about it is because I want you to realize that this is proof of the revelation, and it's proof of the divine feminine rising, that people are talking about this and people are demanding answers and people are investigating this. That's just proof of that. Okay. Yeah, we are very powerful. I agree with Amanda. We are very powerful. So I'm just looking at questions. Yes, we will. Oh, that's not it. Mystical Mira, when we are rebuilding, will we be able to find and bring families back together? Yeah, some of them. Some people are going to leave and never come back, right? So we are losing a lot of people. I saw a report recently. This is the first year that we've had negative migration numbers. So more people are leaving the U.S. than are coming here. And that hasn't happened since, they said, the Great Depression in the 1930s. So a lot of people are leaving and not coming back. Oh, here's a question. What are some of your news resources? So I like to consult Ground News, which is online. And then I also like, of course, Aaron Parnas. There's some people on TikTok that I follow. There's a influencer named Tiffany, who's a Mediterranean Latina, I think is her username. She does news reports about Western Asia like every few hours. Then there's a few other people like that who, and she has receipts for all of it. So she's got foreign press that she's getting information from, and then she has people giving her inside information. And then I look at like Al Jazeera, BBC, lots of foreign press online. Basically the way I treat it is I treat it as data points. So if I see like 3 different stories from 3 different news agencies that are all saying the same thing, then I consider that more credible, right? Obviously, if it's just one news agency, I'd be like, well, how come no one else is talking about this, right? But if I see a Chinese news source and an Arab news source and the BBC, and they're all saying something is happening, then I consider that worthy to report, right? Now, of course, I always give the disclaimer in my post that I'm not a journalist. because my show is more of a comedy show, my Metatron Not the News. I'm trying to inform people, but I'm mostly trying to help people see the big picture, stay hopeful, stay entertained, laugh a little, and keep our spirits up. Because my primary job, according to my guides, is to help raise the consciousness. And so I do that in a lot of different ways. I tell stories. I have my little comedy, Not the News show. I do lives to, talk about the big picture. I make predictions, right? My guides do, and then I deliver those. And all of the work that I do, it's just different ways of doing it. It's all designed to help us navigate this very difficult situation, help us to keep our vibration up and to stay hopeful and to keep visioning, right, the future that we want to see. So that's my job. Here's another. Oh, some people are sharing some sources. Great. So Moonchild Blue says first post out of India is good. Yeah, and I can't remember the names of all the press that I refer to. Oh yeah, the FIFA Cup. I'm surprised they haven't canceled that. Oh yeah, I like Under the Desk as well. Oh, we got Singapore in the house. Welcome, Singapore. Yeah, hasn't the 4 a.m. Club been the great antidote? Oh, here's a question. Let's tune into this from Abby Yandel. Will the circus try to withhold SS payments? This has been a question on a lot of people's mind for a while. And what I've always gotten in the past was this was not something we needed to worry about. But let me just see if I get anything new right now. Yeah, I'm just seeing people getting their checks. Yeah, I don't feel they're gonna remove that because they have to be careful, right? The overlords have to be careful. If people are too oppressed, they rise up. And so people have to have a certain level of subsistence for them to not take to the streets, right? The thing about SS is that it covers, the majority of the elderly people in this country. It also covers the majority of the disabled people. And while you might think, oh, the elderly and the disabled aren't going to go out into the streets and do anything, they all have family. And so no one's really willing to sit by and watch their disabled relatives perish or watch their elders perish because they can't buy food. And nobody else can afford that right now. So people can't afford to buy their own groceries and buy all of their elderly relatives' groceries. It's just the groceries are too expensive right now. And a lot of people are not getting paid very much or out of work. And so there's no safety net, right, for those elderly and disabled people besides SS. And so if they were to take that away, it would likely be the last straw before people took to the streets. And the corporations do not want people to take to the streets because then it's going to destabilize the economy. People who are taking to the streets are not going to work and they are not spending money. So I don't see that happening. It may be something that they want to do or that they might threaten to do to scare people. It would be too far. Okay, so Lillian Palco, we were talking about this earlier. So Raskin co-sponsored with several other lawmakers a bill to create a panel or a council to assess Trump's fitness for health. Will it pass? So logically speaking, it's unlikely to pass, right? If we just look at like the facts, we might say, well, it's unlikely to pass because it requires so many votes from the red hats. So that's what we might say would be likely, right? But let me just tune in intuitively, because I do feel very hopeful about this movement. And when I've tuned into it the last couple of days, what I've been getting is that this is a stage, right? This is like a step in the right direction. And there are several more steps that have to be made before we get to that point where he's removed and there's a shifting of the government. But it feels like the path that we're on starts with this. It feels like the first step of a journey of 1,000 miles, right? What's that expression? The first step in your journey of 1,000,000 miles, right? It feels like that right now. I think it's a Chinese expression that I'm misquoting. It feels like that first step. And it also feels like, well, logically, it might seem unlikely because it requires so many red hats to sign on. I feel all this momentum growing, right? And it's happening now for a reason. So what I'm also picking up is the reason it's happening right now. Like some people are like, why didn't they do this a year ago? Right? The guy's been crazy for a while. Why now? I think they're doing it now because of the Pope and because of the Jesus meme, because the tides have shifted enough that there is enough ex-Magatonia action happening. Enough Americans are angry and would support his removal that lawmakers feel more comfortable pursuing it than they did in the past. Because remember what my guide said from the beginning, when the finagling first happened, and they were like, I was like, why aren't the lawmakers saying anything or doing anything when this is clearly an illegitimate regime, right? They were not chosen. They didn't get the tickets to come to town. Why isn't anyone doing anything? And they said because they're afraid of a sea war, that the people who supported the circus have a tendency for violence and they have a lot of weapons and they're, kind of crazy. And if we were to challenge their circus, it would result in a sea war. And so part of what's been going on is they've been waiting for the right time when there's enough of the population that no longer supports him, and enough of especially the population that's violent prone and has a lot of, a garage full of weapons, enough of them are no longer supporting this circus. And so I think that we turned a corner with the Jesus meme and the Pope attack and the war. There's been a lot of things, right? But this week it was the Pope and Jesus. And so now it feels like there's momentum, and it feels like red hats will join this campaign to remove. And the reason they'll join it is because they don't think it's going to negatively impact them. You see, these are very self-interested people. These are not people who care about the American people. These are very self-interested people who are just like, what's in it for me, right? And so they're only going to vote for something if it serves them. And right now, my guides have been saying for a while, for the last few months, that there's been behind the scenes circus talk of maybe we get rid of head clown, we put in assistant clown, maybe we shuffle the deck a little bit. If shuffling the deck allows everyone to keep their money and power, they're okay with that, right? They're not like attached to head clown only. They're attached to an agenda. Head clown was the very best means to fulfill their agenda. But if he stops being the best means to fulfill their agenda, then they're okay with getting rid of him. So we're moving in that direction. And it's going to be stops and starts. It's going to be like, oh, we're creating this bill, but now we've got to lobby everybody and try to get enough people on board. And we've got to convince people that this is in their best interests. We've got to convince people that he's more damaging than helpful right now. And it's getting easier and easier to make that argument because the impact of the conflict in Persia is very bad for our economy. It's very bad for the corporations. It's very bad for our allies. It's very bad for the global economy. It's very bad for our status as a country. We're losing our status and our power. It's also bad for our military. We're depleting our military, our weaponry, right? We're running out of munitions, and we're running out of money, because here's the thing: the circus has already fleeced the coffers. So they spent the last 18 months stealing as much money as they could from us. So we don't have all that money we used to have, right? Because they've just been taking billions out of the first with Doge, and they got the offshore account, right? They've been giving all this money to corporations, right? They've been fleecing the coffers of the US for the last 18 months. And so now we don't have a lot of, money sitting around for new munitions. We just don't have it. And so he is starting to look like more and more of a liability to the overlords who put him into power. And so that's why I think this bill has legs. I think it has momentum. And even though the odds are against it, because we don't have any majorities, right? It's going to have to be a lot of red hats voting for it. It still feels very possible. But it's going to be it's not going to be a straight shot. I agree. I want my money back too. We want a refund. Okay, so I'm looking for more questions in the comments. So if you're just signing in, we got 727 people here. I am taking questions and I'm answering them live intuitively, political questions about our situation. Okay, is that it? Natalie Stites means. It's a long word. Speaking of fleecing, what are the guides saying about this milkman and his power behind Dementia Cheeto? So my guides identified him really early on. So way back in December of 2024, I started talking about the corporate sponsors and the overlords who had sponsored the circus. And he was one of them that was identified by my guides. So Teal Clown is one of them, Amazonia, Facebook, right? There's a lot of corporate sponsors. And then there are certain political sponsors like Rasputin and Noodle Dictator, right? Noodle Yahoo Dictator, right? There's a lot of different sponsors of the circus. And yes, Milkman is one of them. And yes, he is one of the people who is directing a lot of the policies, right? He's like a full-on Nazi, right? He's not like a neo or a pseudo, or right, or just he's not a white supremacist. He's like a full-on Nazi. And so yes, he's been directing a lot of things from behind the scenes. Milkman I just put a question up and I just changed his name to Milkman because that's my code word. So you have to have paid attention to the question that was on the screen. Here's another example. Oh, thank you, Rossi, one of my mods, reminding people to buy me a coffee. Okay, here's another question from Deborah Berry. How long will it take us to rebuild everything that was torn down? So I'm not going to be able to give exact dates, but I can tell you what one date my guides did give me, which I think is significant. They showed me 2030, and they showed me that by 2030, there had been major change. A lot of things that we're envisioning are happening in 2030. And when they first said that to me, I was like, that is so far away. Why are you talking about 2030? I want to know about 2026. But now that some time has gone by, I've had some time to reassess. And I'm like, I think it is helpful for me to know that 4 years from now, many of the changes that I want to see in this country will have taken place. And that while, yes, I would like them to happen today, at least that gives me something to look forward to and feel hopeful about. Um, so, yeah, rebuilding um, is going to take a while, but it's a process, right? Of destruction, removal, reconfiguration, restructure, rebuild, right? And so everything won't happen overnight, but as long as we keep seeing change in the right direction, we're going to feel good about that. Okay. And so that's what we have to focus on, is every time there's positive change, we got to celebrate that instead of saying, why can't we have everything change today? So Dr. Domenico, thank you for your gift. You have a question. Thank you, Dr. Vest, for chatting. Do you or your guides pick up anything on Head Clown's divorce from Giorgia Meloni in Italy? Is that the prime minister who spoke out? As an Italian, I am so thrilled about this and her decline during her re-election year. Oh, that's a different one. See, I don't know this person. I know that there was an Italian defense minister who was a woman who suspended their contract with It's Not Real, I think yesterday, and they spoke out about it. So it's not that person you're talking about. Sounds like you're talking about maybe one of his right-wing flashy people. What we're going to see with a lot of these kind of right-wing flashy candidates is, one by one, them falling out of favor. There was a campaign, right? So there was a campaign to put into office through cheating a lot of these people at the same time. And that's what Starboy was all about with his satellites. That's why he went to Germany and France, right? He was trying to affect these changes, putting people into position who were not chosen. And he was trying to put in lots of them at the same time. But he was found out, and now they have investigations against him in Europe. And now you're seeing these people be exposed one at a time. Also, some of the people who were aligned politically with that right-wing agenda are reevaluating that in light of our circus, right? Just like it's happening in our country, that people who were followers and supporters of the circus are now, many of them, beginning to rethink that because they're finding out who they really are. They're like, oh, we liked them because they were racist and we're racist, but we didn't know they were also going to negatively impact us by destroying our economy, right? Or we liked them because they were sexist and we don't, we like to have power over women, but we didn't know they were also going to make our groceries expensive, right? Or draft our children, right? So we didn't realize that our way of life was going to dramatically change because of this circus. We just thought they were going to put into place some of our anti-DEI and anti-immigrant and anti-women policies, right? And so people are beginning to change in their allegiance to these type of circuses because they're beginning to recognize, hey, it impacts me too. So like now the Catholics are all up in arms because there were a whole lot of Catholics who were anti-immigrant, anti-women, anti-people of color, anti-gay, anti-trans, and they were all for the circus. And until the circus started attacking their religion, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people are really self-interested. They only really care about themselves, and they're okay with a lot of other people being harmed as long as it's not them. So that's why so many people were upset when palm-colored people in Minnesota got shot, because up until then, there were a lot of people who were like, well, yeah, they shouldn't be unaliving all of those brown people, but hey, it's not impacting me. And then they saw that and they're like, oh, it could impact me. I could be next. And so, unfortunately, a lot of people are very self-interested that way. They only are really concerned about what impacts them. Now, fortunately, there are a lot of other people who are not that way. And that's why we've had such a powerful rapid response movement in the United States of Americans standing up to protect their neighbors who were being kidnapped. A lot of the people who were doing that work were not doing it because it directly impacted them. They were doing it because they had compassion and a belief in human rights. And they said, not on my watch, right? But over time, more and more people are being impacted. And unfortunately, it is the case that more and more people need to be impacted in order for us to wake up. Lemon Gelato has some advice for us. Look up creators who will teach you how to make your own fertilizer. Yeah, because people are saying one of the impacts of this conflict is that it's going to severely harm the importation of fertilizer, which is going to impact our farming, which is going to impact the price of produce. So everyone should have their own garden going, and you may have to figure out how to make your own fertilizer. You might want to start a compost now. Okay. Yeah, people have been asking about these missing scientists. So there have been a number of scientists that have gone missing, and some of them appear to have been doing research on star being related topics, UAPs, what are all the names for them? UAP, UFO, right? Alien, right? And so I haven't tuned into that yet, but let me see if I can get anything about that. Part of it is we're very close to disclosure, and that's making a lot of people nervous, because once disclosure happens, disclosure is the world becomes aware of the existence of other worlds and other beings in other places. Once that happens, the overlords can't control us anymore, right? Because the way that institutions control people, whether it's religious institution or a political institution or an economic institution, whatever the institution is, the only way it can control people is by controlling our reality, right? We have to kind of agree to a certain understanding of the nature of reality. So, for example, for a religion to control you, they have to have convinced you that there's a God and that the God is in control, and that if you don't do what the God wants you to do, then you're going to get punished. Now, if people find out there isn't a God, or that God is energy and is not an old man in the sky telling people what to do, then the religion can no longer control people, right? Same with governments in general. Like if we have to all believe in scarcity, for example, for capitalism to work. We have to all believe that there's a limited amount of resources and that everyone can't have what they need. And so we have to kind of compete with each other for the limited resources. That's a belief system, right? It's an idea about what the nature of reality is. But once the star beings come, one of the things that they're going to educate us about is the existence of free energy. So energy is actually free. But because we live in a world where energy is very expensive, certain people are in charge, because as long as they can control the energy, they can control the food, the housing, right? Everything is controlled by our access to energy. Once it's revealed to us that energy is free, that we don't have to mine coal or dig up oil, pump oil out of the ground, and we don't have to rely on, governments and corporations to provide us with electricity and heat. Once we figure that out, they won't be able to control us, right? Because with free energy, what's also going to come is free food, right? We won't have to work anymore. There's the illusion of work too. Like we're taught that to eat, you have to work, which is made up. Like it doesn't make any sense. Right? Animals don't work to eat, right? They just eat. They don't work to house themselves. They have housing, right? We're the only animal that has to work 40 hours a week minimum to eat. and to have electricity and heat and clothing and a house. Like, not even to have fun, just to survive. So that's a part of our Geitgeist. It's a part of our reality. We think that's true, that you can't eat unless you spend a certain amount of hours a week doing something that someone tells you you have to do. That that's the only way you can eat and have a place to live. Now that's all going to change, right? When the star beings show up, we're going to find out that a lot of the things that we believed in weren't true, and the people that are in charge won't be in charge anymore. And it's going to be very liberating for us consciousness wise. And so this disappearance of these scientists, when I tune into it, I get that it's connected to this fear by the government of this shift in consciousness that's associated with us knowing more about star beings. But now somebody else was asking, was it related to a certain type of technology or something? There is something else happening which feels like it's connected, and that is that there are a lot of technologies and healthcare innovations which are out there, which have been suppressed. And every time like cancer gets cured, the person who invented the cancer goes missing or dies, right? And the treatment goes missing. And this has been happening for a while. Anytime a free energy machine is created, right? There's lots of inventors have created devices that can allow people to get free energy. Those people go missing, right? And the invention gets confiscated. Tesla is the most obvious example of that, right? Tesla invented all of these things, and then the government, took all of his schematics and his inventions. This has been an ongoing thing for many years. And so we see this in healthcare too. Like, there are ways to reverse aging. There are ways to reverse cancer. There are ways to reverse Alzheimer's. There are ways to eliminate most disease. Like, right? Disease is not an inevitable part of our life as humans. It's a byproduct of our society that's fixable, but that information has been suppressed, and so there is some connection between the scientists who have gone missing and the emergence of technology that's going to revolutionize our understanding of a lot of things, particularly with regard to energy and health. And I don't know exactly if they were all working on the same project. I'm not picking anything specific up like that. I'm just picking up energetically that there's a connection between them and these innovations and revelations about technology, health, and star beings, right? That's kind of the general connection between the missing people and what they were focused on. So that was an answer to this question right here. Okay, here's a question about Starboy. So what my guides told me, like maybe like a year ago, was they said that he was going to go into exile, not prison, but exile, that he was going to be kicked out of a lot of countries, barred from a lot of countries, that he was going to be like this pariah. Let me see if I get anything new today. And what do we have? We got 764 people in here. I'm answering questions intuitively, political questions. Yeah, you may have noticed that he's going more and more into hiding. Like, he used to be very much in the public eye, and he was also just very much at the center of things. First here in the US, and then in certain European governments. There are a number of investigations into him now, and he's kind of slinking into the background a little bit. Of course, he's still working on stuff. he has always had this plan of world domination. And what my guides told me is that he is working with nefarious star beings who want to have control of our planet. But they also said that they won't succeed because there's this whole galactic federation of beings who are heavily invested in our success and in our ascension or evolution of consciousness. And they're not going to let anybody control us in the future. And so he won't be able to. I've clearly been shown. That is his agenda, though. His agenda with all of his inventions and his interference in different governments has always been about world domination. He's like the supervillain in every movie, in every, Marvel movie, like world domination, right? Now, the thing is, there's several of them. That's the thing. There are several of them that want world domination and they don't really want to share. So that's one thing that's working for us. That's why he and Head Clown couldn't get along, because they both wanted to be in charge. They weren't willing to work together. So with regard to particularly that question about the links, the star links, where'd the question go? Sorry, I took it down. I can't find it now. But the question was about the star links. The Star Links project was a part of that world domination project. So his intention was to get all of these things to cover the planet and then to use them to control things. Surveillance, but also control. That's how he used those to manipulate the tabulation of the tickets in our country. And he was planning to use them to manipulate the tabulations in a lot of countries, and all of them really eventually. But it hasn't really worked out for him because he keeps getting kicked out of different countries, which is what the guides predicted. He was going to keep going into exile. He was going to keep being removed from countries. So like they've kicked the Starlinks out of certain parts of Africa. They've kicked them out of different places. And so, and he had certain agendas with certain campaigns in different countries. And he wasn't able to complete those projects because his links were removed. And so the thing is, once the star beings are here, nobody will be able to do that. Nobody will be able to control the skies with technology. So ultimately, he will fail. Ultimately, those things will be taken down because they're not consistent with where we're headed as a planet in terms of our consciousness. And they're also not going to be tolerated by the star beings who are our friends and want to help us. Okay. So there's taking questions. That's interesting, says Nanak. Swami Vivekananda, who was a Vedantin yogi, spent time with Tesla. Okay. Looking for other questions. Here's a question about language from Falcon Brick. Galactic Federation of Light, Galactic Federation of Planets. They have different orientations. The language that I was given actually was the Galactic Council. So I've actually communicated with the Galactic Council. But sometimes I'll just use other language because that's language other people use. So I actually don't know the difference between the Federation of Planets and the Federation of Light, because that really isn't the language that the spirit guides the star beings I talk to don't use that language. They use Galactic Council. But it sounds like Galactic Federation of Planets, because what I've seen in the Galactic Council is that it's a group of star beings from lots of different star systems who come together on a council and work together. And they're all, I've seen a council of 12 that are all heavily invested in planet Earth because they've helped to seed planet Earth. Like they've sent some of their people here, some of their DNA here, and they've helped us. And they all have a commitment to protecting us and helping us to evolve. So I don't know if that's the same as the Federation of Planets. Might be. Kind of sounds the same. Do I see Headclown finishing his term? No, I do not. I think we should expect to see him out in the next few months. You know, I was told when the apple blossoms bloom that there would be a major event at the House of White that would radically change things. I don't know exactly what it is. And the apple blossoms, when I look them up, they bloom in April and May in DC. So I'm expecting something big to happen then. I was also told not to wait for the midterms, that they wouldn't happen. And I was told they wouldn't happen because there was going to be something bigger happening before November that would eliminate the need for midterms. Or I don't know if that's the right language, but things will be so different that will no longer be. I mean, the way I see it, the way I interpret that when they told me no midterms, was that things are going to dramatically change so much between now and November that the midterms are going to feel irrelevant. And so I'm not sure what that is. I feel like it has to do with the restructuring of our government and some type of transitional government and the elimination of our current structure of government, which I see as a good thing. But it's going to be hard to, go through, of course. We're going through it right now. It's hard. Here's another question from Laura Casey. Have your guides given you any guidance concerning an upcoming shift to digital currency? Nothing in the past. I'm going to tune in right now. I can say, well, no, that's not true. One thing they did tell me that, some of these corporate sponsors of the circus, one of them was Teal Clown, right? PayPal, Venmo, right? This person. And it was his intention to take control of world currency. So early on, if you followed my videos like a year ago, I was talking about the agenda of these different corporate sponsors. And so one of them had an agenda of taking over world shipping. So that was like the Bozo Clown, right? And remember my code name, its name sounds like that. Bozo, similar name. So Bozo the Clown, who's really good at shipping, right? He's got this company that revolutionized online commerce by mastering the art of shipping, right? That guy wanted to take over world shipping. So that's part of the reason why the circus is actively trying to eliminate the post office, because they want to replace it with a corporate model run by Bozo. And they also told me that Teal Clown wanted to take over world currency and turn it into digital currency so that he could control world currency. And so yes, this was a part of the agenda of the circus. So I can say that, 'cause sometimes when people ask me questions, I forget about stuff that they've already told me, but it was so long ago. So that's relevant. Now let's talk about today. It's interesting because there are certain things that have momentum energetically, but there are different groups of people who want them for different reasons. So, for example, one world government, right? There are some people who are so afraid of one world government. Like they think of it as it's going to be this top down, circus clown running the world, right? And that is the vision of like Head Clown right now. He sees himself that way. He wants to be like in charge of the whole world, and he wants to be all under his governance, right? That's his vision. And it's a very nefarious vision that would be very harmful for everybody. We're seeing right now how harmful it is when he tries to control the world. But there's another version of one world government, which is quite positive. And that is where the whole world is working together, but not under a hierarchical government with some man in charge, but rather through councils, right? So there's like a global council that's in charge of making decisions that positively impact all of humanity. So like decisions about the oceans, about food, about making sure everyone has something to eat, and making sure that, you know, there's no war, and making sure that women are not raped. And, you know, like there is that vision as well, right? Of this one world government that ensures that everybody is taken care of. And so energetically, the energy that's moving towards one world government is there. And there are these different paths, right? One is a nefarious path of head clown trying to run the world for his own selfish reasons. But there's this other vision of a world government where everybody is provided for, and we have the end to hunger and war and violence, right? And so energetically, there's a lot of momentum, right? And that's the same with digital currency. Like the energy of digital currency is this idea that everybody is using the same money, and there's no divisions between countries. There's no valuing of one currency over another. Like if I travel to certain parts of Asia or Africa, my money spends a lot farther than their money, right? And that's because of global power structures, right? And so there is a vision of the world where we all have the same money that's worth the same amount of money, and there's complete equality of currencies, right? We all have the same currency, and it doesn't matter where you live, your money spends the same way. So that's a vision for the future, right? That might involve something like digital currency. And that's a different vision from the vision that Teal Clown has of controlling all of currency so he can control people, right? The surveillance state, you know, in line with the digital currency, right? So when people ask, do you see digital currency? I see a lot of energy behind that type of ideal. But I do not see Teal Clown being successful in his vision of creating the surveillance state where he controls everybody's life through their currency. I don't see that happening, but I do see us going in the direction of everybody having currency that has the same value, right? Like right now, part of the conflict in Western Asia is about currency, right? Persia is saying to everybody, you can only pass through the Strait of Hormuz if you pay in Chinese yuan. If you pay in dollars, you can't pass. And I think they're accepting the money in digital too. I'm not sure if that's true, but I did see that in a couple reports. So what they're doing is they're trying to shift the global power by shifting the currency. And so in the future, if we have a truly equal world where we don't have those power imbalances, it would make sense for us all to have the same currency, which, you know, could be digital. So that's my answer to this question. Yeah, so global citizens. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to answer this question because it's something that I feel kind of strongly about. So Orias is asking, do you ever wonder if predicting things in the future can tend to create more of an attachment to outcome energy around them for anyone privy, thereby making it harder for the outcomes to happen? So my short answer is no. Now, I know that, if you're a Buddhist or if you've been influenced by Buddhism, you may have been taught that attachment is a bad thing, right? That suffering is the result of attachment. When we get attached to things being a certain way and then they're not that way, that can make us unhappy, right? So that's kind of a fundamental Buddhist belief. And so I think that's where this type of question comes from. It comes from that type of Buddhist sensibility. And while I do think that Buddhist philosophy is very helpful, I don't entirely. I don't think we can really apply it. Sometimes people try to apply things too literally, I think. Um, so so I don't think that attaching yourself or being kind of passionately um, connected to a vision of the world is bad. Um, I actually think that is what shifts things. So when we all start to have a vision of how we want the world to be, that helps us to create that world. But a Buddhist might call that attachment, might say, oh, you're too attached to the vision you have for the world. And if it doesn't happen that way, you're going to be unhappy. Well, I'm okay with being unhappy. I think that being unhappy or being disappointed is a part of life. And I'm not actually spending my life trying to avoid being disappointed or trying to avoid unhappiness. And I think really as a person of color, that is a philosophy that probably I could never get behind because it's not practical for me. If you're a person of color, um, unhappiness or suffering or despair, right? That's just a part of our life, right? It's just kind of a part of what it means to be born in this world with this color skin. And so we've never had it as a part of our cultures to be like, oh, I should strive to always be happy and avoid anything that's going to cause me to be unhappy, right? So, um, so that's a part of it. Is that there is a risk. There's always a risk when you attach yourself to a certain outcome. There's a risk that it's not going to happen, and you're going to be disappointed, right? But I don't think, to get back to the wording of the question, I don't think that envisioning the future you want to see negatively impacts the future coming. I think the opposite is true. I think that it helps to bring it forward when you envision the future that you want to see. And so predicting for me is about helping people to envision the future they want to see. That's my purpose in predicting things. Is, like I said earlier, my guides have tasked me with doing certain work with the ultimate goal of helping people to navigate this difficult situation, helping people to raise their vibration, and thus to raise the vibration of the whole planet, and helping us to bring about a new world based on our visions of what we would really like to see in the world. And predicting is one of the ways my guides have asked me to do that. And so the purpose of prediction is the kind of prediction I do, right? Spiritual, political prediction, is to give people hope, to help people to see the big picture, but also maybe most importantly, to empower people, to kind of make us realize that we do have sovereignty. Because if I can talk to my spirit guides and they can tell me something that's going to happen and then it happens, that doesn't just tell you that this one person has access to information about the future. It also lets you know that you potentially have access to the future, because we all have spirit guides, right? I'm not unique. I just happen to have a life purpose that entails me sharing my messages with the world. That's just my particular path. You may be someone who your spirit guide tells you things, but it's not your path to share it publicly. Maybe it's just your path to share it with your family or just to help guide your life with the messages you get from your guides. But we all have the potential to get information from our ancestors, our guides, our angels. We all have that capacity. And we all do get them. We just don't always maybe identify them as that, like that hunch, that sudden knowing, that push, that synchronicity that tells you to make a certain decision could be coming from your guides. That knowing that something is going to happen and then it happens is possibly coming from your guides. And so that's also part of what my job is by predicting is I am demonstrating to people what's possible for humans, that we as humans can tune in to higher realms. We can get information that helps us prepare for our future. So I hope that helps. Stephanie said, I'm not okay with being unhappy. Nobody wants to be unhappy, but there is a way in which some of us have been conditioned our whole life to accept that we may have to endure some of that on our way to getting what we are envisioning. Here we go. Ragdolls 5PS. Thank you for your 20-pound gift. So you are somewhere in the UK. Hey, Lisa, lots of love to you. I sent an email to NATO about capturing Head Clown, Satan Yahoo, and Putintina as an alliance and bringing them to The Hague, the International Court of Justice. Obviously, no reply, but would make sense. Hey, it still matters when you do these things. It matters practically and energetically when you write these letters, right? Because when you write that letter, you are giving whoever receives that letter an opportunity to do the right thing, right? You're helping them to make the right choice. And they may not listen to you, but on a soul level, they've been given a nudge, right? And if enough people send that same letter, it becomes harder and harder for them not to respond. So maybe, they didn't respond to your letter. But let's say they get 10,000 letters that all say the same thing. That might impact them, right? They might start thinking, we gotta do something. Public sentiment is moving in this direction. We have to make an announcement. We have to maybe send a reply all. We got to do something, right? Or it just might begin to shift the consciousness of that person. And that person might have the ear of another person who's more powerful, who might have the ear of another person, right? And it might start to affect change. Energetically, it has an impact because the more people are calling for justice in whatever format, in regard to whatever issue it is, the more people are speaking out or doing things in the name of justice, the closer we get energetically to justice, right? Because the way that movements happen, the way that change happens, it doesn't happen because everybody engages in the same act to bring about change, right? It happens because a critical mass of people do something, and they're doing what they did shifts the consciousness of the rest of the people. So it's kind of like that 100th monkey theory, right? Where they taught, it's from anthropology, I think. They taught a monkey how to wash a sweet potato in a river. And then what they discovered was that once they taught like 100 monkeys, and I might be quoting this wrong because I'm not an anthropologist, but they're like, once 100 monkeys learned how to wash the sweet potato, what they noticed is that worldwide, monkeys throughout the world all began to wash their sweet potatoes, even though they weren't in direct communication with each other, that something shifted energetically such that once a critical mass of monkeys knew how to wash their sweet potatoes, energetically, the whole planet of monkeys figured out it's time to wash our sweet potatoes. And so the same thing happens with human consciousness, right? We just have to have a critical mass. So if we look at like the civil rights movement, it wasn't the whole country rising up demanding justice, right? It was a critical mass, and then the newspapers and the TV reporters filming it, and everybody seeing it, and then it impacting people's consciousness, and then people saying, you know what, they're right. We shouldn't it shouldn't be like this. We shouldn't be preventing Black people from going to school and going to movie theaters and going to, stores. We shouldn't be doing this, using water fountains, using swimming pools and parks, right? We shouldn't be segregating ourselves like this. But it took that critical mass of people on that same wavelength of calling for justice. And those people did it with their bodies, right? They were doing it with their bodies, some of them with their voices, speaking out, and some of them with their bodies in the street, getting knocked down with water hoses and batons and arrested. And so when you sent that letter, you're a part of that critical mass. And if enough people worldwide were to send those letters to the International Court, or to advocate in some way that these people be held to account, it could shift the whole consciousness of the planet. And so this was an answer to this question. So thank you for sending your letter to NATO. And some people are sending stuff to the ICC, right? The International Criminal Court. Then there's the UN. Is the ICC in the UN? Yeah. So there are different international bodies that can be appealed to. And there is an arrest warrant out there for one of them. Now we need them all to get arrest warrants, right? Yeah, I agree with Auntie Falala that one of the ways that we combat unhappiness is by focusing on having gratitude for what we do have rather than the opposite. And that's also something I'm trying to demonstrate with the work that I do, that, people, it's very easy for us to get very focused on bad news and bad things that are happening, and to not pay attention to the good news, and to not see the general progression of things. Sometimes we just get caught up in anticipatory despair, right? We're like people are worried about the draft. So we've had selective service for years. Selective service is like an automated draft. It's a list of young people that can be called up if a draft is ever instituted. We've had that for 40 years. And Head Clown is talking about automating it, like making it more automatic. Like right now, in order to be in the select, you have to, if you go to college, you automatically get added. If you vote, you get added to the list. Like there's certain things that trigger it, but there's not currently a universal database. So he's talking about a universal database. That really isn't about the draft. That's about the surveillance state, right? They're trying to create a surveillance state. They're trying to make lists of all of us. That's why they're trying to get the voting rolls from states. They're trying to get lists. They're trying to, that's why they're surveying our phones, and, they're trying to make a database, right? And that's just a part of that project. And so it's not really new. And so there are people who are getting worried about that, like, oh, that means they're gonna take my sons and daughters. And so that's kind of like anticipatory despair, like, oh, I'm already anticipating this bad thing happening that hasn't happened yet. Well, we have enough on our plate without anticipating bad stuff. That hasn't happened. And not only has it not happened, but I think it's very unlikely to happen, because look at the state of the conflict now. The most unpopular conflict ever. And it's not just unpopular among like blue hats or peaceniks or anti-war activists, right? Like Magatonians don't like this conflict. The red hats lawmakers don't like this. The generals had to retire or be fired en masse because they don't support this conflict. they have a record number of conscientious objectors happening right now in the military. There are so many soldiers who are refusing to fight. And they've never had that happen in the middle of a conflict. People who already enrolled, who signed up voluntarily, are now saying they won't fight. None of our allies are fighting with us. Even the GCC countries will not fight with us. And they've always been on our side. So we should be focusing on that, because that's good news, right? The fact that so many countries are not supporting this conflict, that's what we should focus on. That's the good news. Instead of focusing on, oh, is he going to try to draft our children in the future? My answer is no, he's not going to be able to. First of all, he's not going to be in office that long. But also, I could actually have I am going to probably do a whole post on that. Because also Generation Z will not go. I mean, if you know anything about Generation Z, they won't even go to protests. Like they're not involved in the resistance. They're not involved. They're not going to go. They're not going to participate. Yeah, here's another example. Australia. Oh, it's Livy. Hi, Livy. Meister Tarot is here. Woohoo! If you don't follow Meister Tarot, go follow her. It's one of my mutuals. Great content. So she said the felon is ranting about Australia not joining his conflict means we're doing something right. Yes, you are. Woohoo, Australia. Australia, yet another country that's refusing to join this nonsense. Thank you, Australia. I didn't hear about this, but this is more good news from SF Sandra, saw that some military units are rationing food. Do you see the U.S. military running out of money to feed the soldier? Oh, it's a question. Okay, I thought you said actually you saw them. Here's a question. So, well, one thing before I directly answer this, let me answer a related question because I'm seeing this image as soon as I tune in. I saw an image a while ago, and I'm seeing it again right now when I tune into this question of how they're trying to sneak all these soldiers to Persia. So there's all of these like soldiers that are like kind of hiding out around the edges of Persia. And they have this plan of this attack, like this invasion. I don't know if it's a ground war, like it's some kind of attack. And of course, they had that first attack that failed, right? Where they said they pretended to be rescuing a pilot or something. But of course, they weren't. They were trying to do a mission, and it failed. But then they showed me all of these people kind of hiding, like he thinks he's going to be able to do this, right? So this is what I'm being shown when I ask this question. I try to answer your question about rationing. And one of the problems with that mission is resupply. There's no way to resupply them. And that's part of the problem. And so now I'm seeing it's connected to the blockade, that the reason they're trying to have this blockade is because they didn't have a way to actually get soldiers in and out effectively to that area. And so he's thinking, oh, if I can control the strait, then I can get my warships in there for this invasion, right? And you have to be able to have a continuous flow of warships to bring the supplies, right? The food and the munitions. And they're not currently able to do that. And so this might be why what you're saying is that they're rationing. Because when I tune into this question, are they running out of money? So I'm not getting the money question answered. I'm getting the ration question answered. I'm getting, yes, they have a supply chain issue right now. They have a supply chain issue that they have not solved. They're trying to solve it with this blockade, but it's not working. Now, money, let me answer your question about money. Is there a money? Is it have to do with money? No. So I'm seeing money being thrown at this conflict, thrown, lots of money being thrown at this conflict. So I'm not seeing a money issue. I am seeing a supply logistical issue. It's a logistical issue, which isn't surprising, right? Because we've got the idiot in charge and all of the best generals. First of all, they fired all the black and women officers, and then they and the gay ones, and now they're just like firing anyone who doesn't agree with the conflict. So of course we're down to like the least qualified that are left. So they're not going to be necessarily good at running a conflict, right? We had a question from I am Eloa, who's been a member for 5 months. Thank you so much for being a member. And I want to thank everyone here who's a member. I want to thank everyone who's bought me a coffee. I want to thank everyone who has sent me a Venmo or a gift. And also just to anyone who shows up and is just present and commenting and being a part of this community. I appreciate all of you. We got 864 in here right now. So thank you to everyone for being here. So what's the question? The New Mexico Truth Commission will give an update tomorrow. What do you see? Will they be truthful? I think that's the Zorro Ranch Commission. I'm not sure, but I think that's what you're referring to. And I think the reason that they're asking, will they be truthful, is because if you know the history of New Mexico, what happened was, Epi was being arrested and charged in New York and in Florida, and all of his residents were being searched. But then the AG for New Mexico was like head clown's lawyer, or I don't know. He was a part of the bad traffic, right? And so he demanded that the federal government stop the investigation into Zorro Ranch. And so there's this history of corruption in that state with regard to this ranch. And so I think that's why this person is asking, will they tell the truth? Now, the commission was created by Representative, is it Stansbury, a woman representative in New Mexico who started this investigation into the ranch. And she just reported, I think yesterday, the day before, I saw her report on one of her channels that they're doing a full-blown criminal investigation of the ranch, that they've brought in like radar drones or something, and they have mapped out the entire hundreds of acre land, I guess looking for maybe bodies or evidence. And so I do have a lot of faith in her and in her integrity. Just when you hear her speak, it's obvious that she has a lot of integrity. What else am I getting about this Truth Commission? I see a whole lot of people putting their cards down on the table. And so to me, that's truth. A whole lot of cards being put on the table means, like when you're playing cards and you put your cards on the table, the time for bluffing is over, right? You can't pretend to have a better hand than you have. You can't try to make money off of people's assumptions about what you have in your hand. Once you put your cards on the table, all bets are up, right? The game is coming to a conclusion. And so I feel like what's going to be revealed is some truths, some actual truths. But the fact that I'm seeing cards on the table also makes me a little nervous that they're going to be ending things soon, or that they're going to maybe not go as far as they should be. That maybe the game shouldn't be over already, but that they might be saying, oh, we did this investigation, we didn't find anything, or this is what we found, and we don't really have cause to continue. So I'm a little nervous about that. From this image, I'm a little nervous that they're going to maybe not be as in-depth as they could be, because it's going to look like at this point, well, we've already x-rayed the whole ranch, we've done a thorough search, and so everything is out in the open. And so I am a little worried about that maybe there might be the appearance that everything has been revealed when everything hasn't been. So that's just what I'm picking up energetically right now. We should ask Libby. Libby might have gotten something else. Okay. Pope Leo's brother got a bomb threat. Investigation ongoing. There was somebody, what's her name? Matilda, I think she's out of the UK, is a psychic who predicted a lot of things. And one of the things she did predict was that, way back when, was that the Pope would be threatened. So she was right about that. Thank you from Artists and Oracles. I too appreciate you and everyone here. Thank you for that. Yeah, Melanie Stansbury is the representative in New Mexico who spearheaded those efforts. I think she has a lot of integrity. And yeah, New Mexico is predominantly women. I think it was a whole group of women. I think the state legislature is all women. And so this also is an example of the rise of the divine feminine. That's why it's happening in New Mexico. That's why they were able to get it to happen so quickly too. It's because all of these women powerful women are coming together in New Mexico. Oh, Colleen is trying to help me out by saying, if you Venmo me, I get all the money. If you send it through YouTube, they keep whatever, 40%. But whatever you send me, I'm grateful for. Here's a funny comment from Lemon Gelato about Gen Z. My local Dairy Queen is all Gen Z. I grew up with Dairy Queen. I miss Dairy Queen. We don't have it where I am. Every time I ask them to not turn my Blizzard upside down, I get the stare. I'm afraid of them. Yeah, they're not going. They're not going. Yeah, yay, Ireland. I was talking earlier about the activist. What's her name again? I talked about her in my post earlier today. Was it Lola? Oh, now I forgot her name. Hold on. I got it. Layla Doolin, the Irish trekker. She's like 90 something years old. And she walked 220 kilometers to petition the Irish government to stop letting the U.S. use Shannon Air Base for our nefarious war games. So proud of her. I keep reporting stuff about Ireland because they are doing the most. They had their Caped Crusader who destroyed one of our warplanes with an axe. They're having nationwide protests right now because they're being negatively impacted by the fuel shortage. So yay, Ireland. Yeah, this is one of the issues, Lissa, Persia is surrounded by mountains, and it's a very difficult place to stage a ground offensive. You have to have a serious, very, very well-organized supply chain structure, and they don't. Oh, here's a little bit of interesting information from Shannon Size More Noise. Recently learned that the head clown's uncle, John G. Trump, was one of them in the government that stole Tesla's papers and belongings immediately after his death in 1943. I had heard about that. Some families are rotten through the generations. Libby's got to leave us. Thanks for joining us, Libby. Got to get your recordings done before the hubby decides to come home. All right. Thank you for joining us, Libby. Always good to see you. Thank you for the love. Yes, the Irish are our heroes, aren't they? Oh, yes. Senator, I did talk about this earlier in my post. Senator Duckworth, she gave a great speech today talking about draft dodging head clown. She called him Cadet Bone Spurs. Oh, too funny. She's a true veteran. She actually fought. She also called the conflict in Iraq useless and endless. So she fought there and sacrificed colleagues for that conflict. And she's very critical of that too. She said that this one is promising to be the same type of conflict, and that's why she doesn't support it. I like this recommendation by Rod, let the ancestors be their guides to that sacred land in New Mexico and truth be revealed, or send them the skinwalkers. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm looking for more questions to answer. We're at an hour and 49. We've got 855 people in here. And if you're new here, I'm a psychic medium and medical intuitive, and I'm also a precog, which means I predict the future. The predictions I make have to do with the spiritual significance of the political situation we find ourselves in. And I'm currently looking for questions about our political and or spiritual situation. Oh, Matilda's in Australia. Okay, I said they were in the UK, but they're in Australia. Okay, thanks for the correction. We got a lot of great Australian psychics, don't we? We've got Revealing Light. We've got Libby, Meister Tarot. We've got Matilda. What's going on over there? Okay. Let's see. I'm just looking for questions. She was 97. Oh, I didn't know she was that old. We're talking about this Capes Crusader in Ireland who went on a 220-kilometer trek. Okay, let's see. Ragdolls has a question, and I'm trying to find it. Because I don't think I answered your question. It's highlighted in orange. Where is it? Oh, maybe it's a new question. Here you are. I was scrolled up. So Ragdolls 5Ps, thank you for the 20-pound gift. USA is going through the Pluto return. It's Pluto return, and we have just had Neptune enter Aries, first time since the U.S. Civil War. Also, Uranus in Gemini. Last two times that happened was U.S. Civil War, then Pearl Harbor. So let me say something about that. Thank you for your comment. So we're not going to have a civil war. So I'm just going to keep saying that. A lot of people are afraid of that. It's some more of that anticipatory despair I was talking about. It's not good for us. Do not be despairing about things that have not happened. But I think the astrologers are really important. And so I'm really grateful when astrologers weigh in and tell us the important conjunctions that are happening and what happened historically at that time. But what I want us to understand is that the fact that the planets are lined up in such a way that coincides with civil war, or did in the past, does not mean it's going to coincide with that in the present. Right? We can't be that literal. Sometimes we have that tendency, right? That's like the easy way. My mom was an astrologer. And so that's kind of the context from which I'm speaking. I am not an astrologer, but I grew up with an astrologer. And one of the things that she used to tell me is that, everybody wants like this quick, fast, dirty astrology. They just want to know your sun sign and then tell you about yourself based on that. And she said, that's really not how astrology works. It's very complicated. It involves a lot of calculations and patterns. And you have to look at, like, for example, if you're looking at an individual, you have to look at their whole chart. You can't look at their sun sign. You have to look at everything. And you have to do that with a country too. You have to look at the whole chart. You can't just look at certain planets in the chart of the United States. It's complex. But we have that tendency, right? As humans, we want kind of an easy map. We want it to be like, oh, this means this. And so the way that I would interpret these conjunctions that are happening, these planetary alignments that are happening, is that it means that energetically we're entering into a space where we are willing to radically change things, right? We're willing to restructure our whole government. And that's what my guides have been saying for the longest. We are in the middle of a restructure, right? The reason Head Clown got into office, illegitimately, I might add, is because he is a vehicle for change. He came in, his corporate sponsors, they were all planning to destroy a lot of our government. Their main reason for doing that was to consolidate power and to make money. They didn't have any good reason to do it. But it just so happens that what they're doing is helping us eventually, because we need to get rid of what's broken in order to create something better. And so we are in the middle of a major restructure. And that's what the Civil War was. It was a major restructure. The entire country broke up into two camps over slavery, right? And decided to fight it out and see who was going to win, to determine whether or not we were going to continue to be the type of people that engage in widespread crimes against humanity, which is what slavery is. Speaking of which, the UN recently brought a vote. I haven't posted about this yet because I've been just thinking about it. But the US recently brought a vote, not the US, the UN, never the US. The UN recently brought a vote to say that the Atlantic slave trade, right, the slave trade that kidnapped all these Africans and brought them to the Americas and some to Europe, was the greatest crime against humanity in the history of humanity. And most people voted yes. The people that voted no was the United States and It's Not Real, right? The two countries whose countries are very dependent on G-side, right? So our country history was built on the slave trade and the G side of indigenous people, right? That's our history. And that's also the history of It's Not Real. They're in the middle of a G side, right? And that's kind of how they've created their country, is through conquest, colonization, and G side. That's true of both of us. And so we're the two countries that said, no, we don't agree. Because if we were to agree with that, we would have to actually then acknowledge our history, and we would have to actually change. So the Civil War was fought over that. Like, okay, we're engaged in this incredible, human rights crime. And a lot of people decided that, okay, we're no longer willing to do that. So we're at a similar point now where people are waking up and recognizing that they can't sit idly by while so many people are being harmed in our name, right? And right now it's there's a lot of groups being harmed, right? There's all of the women and children being harmed in the files, and those are all, and the people who are doing all that harm in the files are also the people running our government, right? It's the same people running several governments. We can't sit idly by for that. We can no longer participate in any of these endless wars where innocent civilians are being unalived. We can no longer stand for that. We can no longer stand for our neighbors to be kidnapped, or to be detained, or to be raped in centers, right? And so energetically, that's where we're at. The US really rose up for the first time in the last year or two to protest the G side in the watermelon land, right? That's been going on for decades, but something shifted in us and it became a majority position now. The majority of the US does not support what's going on over there, the majority. That's an energetic shift, right? And that's what happened with the Civil War. There was a shift in consciousness where people were like, I can't support this anymore. That's where we're at energetically. We're not willing to support the things that we've been supporting for decades, or in some cases, hundreds of years. And so we're in the middle of a major change. What does that change look like? I don't think it looks like a sea war, because we've evolved, right? We're no longer at that stage of our development where the only way we know to make change is through arms, right? That's just not where we're at. And so the change is going to happen in a different way. Now, I think there are going to be some elements of that. And so we're already seeing it with the fires, all the little fires everywhere in the US. So there are all of these little fires happening. And just today, I think yesterday, there were 2 Molotovs that got thrown at Tesla. One that wasn't successful, and then they came back and did it again, and it was successful in terms of starting up blaze. Amazon was hit, and then Sam Altman, who's the head of OpenAI, has been personally targeted, his house personally targeted a few times, and as well as some of his companies. Just today we had, I think it was today, news that another Amazon freight train was hit. There's been a couple of containers that have been hit. And so there's a theory circulating that this is a coordinated attack by people who are fed up with the economic situation. We don't really have enough data to know if that's the case, but it makes sense, right? Given the planets, right? Given what this person just said about where the planets are and how the last time they were in this alignment, there was a sea war. The other things that happened the last time we had these configurations was Revolutionary War, French Revolution, right? So these are all examples of major change mediated by the people because they were fed up with circumstances. So like the Haitian Revolution was enslaved people rising up and saying, we're not going to put up with this anymore. French Revolution, right? The people saying, we're not going to allow this level of, wealth disparity anymore. So this is the era we're in, this era of major change. Ragdolls is making another donation. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Another 10 pounds. Apologies if I was promoting the wrong message. No, I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying you were promoting the wrong message. I was just trying to address what I have seen other people be afraid of. Like I always like to address fears. That's what I was trying to address. I'm saying this is an opportunity to take advantage of these transits so the power comes back to the people. Also, Neptune is illusion and oil. So thank you. No, I really appreciate you sharing these transits with us because you're right. It gives us an opportunity for change. And that's why it's really important for us to have these astrologers right now because they are providing us with information to kind of, for some of us, confirm what we're dreaming. For others, just kind of give us courage, right? Embolden us to know that, hey, the planets are backing us up. I just wanted to address that fear of war. I just feel like I have to always address the fears. Oh, and here's another comment, astrological comment. There's lots of planets and asteroids in flammable Aries right now. And Aries is associated with war. But not just war, right? So, but we just have to be aware that there are different ways for that to manifest. That's all I'm saying. We can't always look to, so I heard there's a phrase I really like when someone said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Sometimes we expect history to repeat itself. So we say, oh, Civil War then, Civil War now. No, but it does rhyme. So something similar is happening. Yeah, something similar. And I do wonder if the little fires everywhere is the similar thing that's happening now. The thing that rhymes with the Civil War might be that, right? The people rising up with these little paper Marios and Luigis and whatnot. Oh, interesting, Jackie Reynolds. Yeah, very suspicious because that company is all about the surveillance state. And so, yeah, I would not add that if I were you. Okay, I'm probably going to take a couple more questions. I did hear about this. Someone's mentioning Aaron Parnas reported. I saw that report that an Amazon worker passed away at work and they refused to let the coworkers administer CPR and made them keep working with the corpse for like another hour. That's what I heard. Yeah, I heard that. It's just, that's the kind of thing that wakes people up and that makes people say, okay, no more, right? That's just inhumane. You can't expect people to go along with something like that. Lemon gelato, the joust finagling is in the epi files. Yes, I've talked about this. And so it could come out as part of the files coming out from overseas. Yeah, so again, we're hearing rumors of like China's going to release the unredacted files. I wish somebody would. Everyone keeps saying they're going to. Just do it already. Just do it. Yeah, so the finagling is in the files. The traffic's in the files. The corruption, the political and economic corruption of all the political leaders is in the files. The connections between It's Not Real and the circus is in the file. The connections between Rasputin and Mrs. Head Clown and other agents of that country is in the files. Most importantly, what's in the files is the global structure of the world, right? The global structure of power is in the files. And that's why the real reason they don't want them released. It's not just about the traffic. It's about the people waking up and finding out who's really running things and who those people are and what they're doing, right? We don't really know that, right? We all think we have governments of people we elected, right? We think that companies are just like free enterprise capitalist projects, right? We're not really aware of the way in which corporate elites and political leaders and bad traffic perpetrators are all working together to control our economies and our political situation, right? We're not really aware of the extent of that, but we're becoming more and more aware, right? And the files are helping us to become more aware. And the more of those come out, the more aware we become. And the more aware the people become of the true nature of global power, the easier it is for us to change it, right? And that's what they're afraid of. Okay. Okay, there's somebody in here putting Bible scriptures. Can whoever's doing that stop doing that, because this is really not the space for that. Okay, we don't want to get into religious arguments. Everyone has their own spiritual beliefs, and so we don't do any missionary work in here. Ooh, I didn't hear about this. Teresa, the acting director, just resigned. Did that happen today? I did not hear about that. Okay, here's a question. I got 837 in here, so I'm answering questions. Abby Yandel, do you see the actual power people in the files? Yes, I think I understand the question. You're talking about the overlords? Not all of them. They're not all in there, but there is enough of a mapping and enough of a network, and there are enough names in the files that we can decipher things from them, right? So yeah, it's not everybody, but it's enough. It's enough. So it's the kind of thing where, if you have enough clues, you can figure something out without having all the information. It's that kind of thing. So it's like, yeah, are like all the Rothschilds in there? No, probably not. Some of them. Are all the most powerful people in there? No, but there is enough evidence in there for us to be able to figure out who they are. And there are also just a lot of names in there, because that was their whole thing. So Epi's role, and you got to understand people's roles in terms of the larger picture. So Epi, right, really, really terrible person who was responsible for widespread suffering, right? This is what we can all agree on. But what's his purpose, right? What's his purpose? Well, part of his purpose was to document. So this stuff's been going on for centuries, right? The traffic of people and the mistreatment of people by elites, right? This has been happening for centuries. So what's different? What's different is that Epi started documenting everything. Emails, photographs, movies, hidden cameras, hidden audio tapes, right? Massive documentation of the bad traffic. That had never been done before. And of course, the only reason he did that, not just him, Head Clown, I do believe Head Clown was partner and or boss of Epi, because that's what my guide said a long time ago. They said, it's not an Epi list. It's Epi and Head Clown were in this together. They were like business partners. So the purpose that Head Clown and Epi had in documenting everything was to be able to have leverage over powerful people. So that's how they got their power, was by documenting something that had been going on forever. They were the first ones to document it. And so while their whole purpose in doing that was self-interested, right? They were just doing that to get power, and it worked. Look where Head Clown is. That's how he got this position, right? And that's also how Epi got the power he got. And that's why he's still free, even though, he's supposed to be in the lockup, right? Because he has so much power over so many people. So that was their purpose. However, if you look at the bigger picture, it serves us, because now there's proof, right? I mean, there were always survivors. There were always people to come forward and say, this happened to me. But because we live in a patriarchal culture, we don't listen to women, right? We live in a grape culture. There are so many victims, so many survivors, and most of them never see justice. Nobody listens to them. Nobody believes them. They get punished for speaking about it. And so because that's the society we live in globally, specifically in the US, but also globally, we live in a patriarchal globe right now. We needed it to come out in a different way. Sad but true. Sad but true. So we needed it to come out in this way. We needed paper. We needed documentation. We needed a paper trail. We needed photographs. We needed videos. We needed audio tapes, right? We did that type of evidence to buttress the evidence we already have, which is in the form of survivor testimonies. We needed all of that. And Epi provided that for us, right? So that was his role. If you look at the big scheme of things, he's contributing to the revelation, the period of revelation, which allows us to destroy these systems of bad traffic and create a new world, right? And that was the role he played, continues to play. Was the documenter, the scribe. Those documents exist and they can't be deleted. Like, there's too many copies of them in too many locations. Some of them have been destroyed. Some of them are in hiding. But there are others that lots of people had access to, lots of witnesses, copies were made. For one thing, many of the original recordings were commissioned in part by another power, right? Rasputin. So it wasn't like this was some private collection by a private citizen. It was never that. It was never a private film collection, let us say. It was always a state-sponsored collection. And that's why there have always been more than one copy. Also, just the existence of espionage makes it impossible these days for anyone to truly have anything called a private collection of anything. If it's on a computer, it can be hacked. And so lots of espionage networks have also been involved with these files, and that's why there are multiple copies of certain parts of them. So yes. Okay, one more question. And I'm always forgetting to stop, and I'm supposed to promote things like, oh, if you've read my books, I have 2 books out, Sovereign Wisdom and The Ethical Psychic. And if you have read them, I would love a review. In fact, let me go get them. Where are they? Okay. All right. Here's one of them, Ethical Psychic. A lot of people have read it and they tell me they like it. If you could go to Goodreads or Amazon or Barnes & Noble and write a review, that would really help, get word out about the book. And then my poetry book, Ancestor Count. You can buy it online. The other books are all at bookstores, but that one's online. And then my latest book about Native American philosophy. If you've read this book, please review it. Need reviews. And if you haven't read it, go get it. So I just want to thank everyone again for your Buy Me a Coffee donations. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you for your Venmos. Thank you for being here. If you're a member, thank you for being a member. If you're a Patreon member, thank you for that. And let's see if we can find another question. Let's see. Oh, links for my books. That's a good idea. Where's my links? Hold on. I always forget that I should give links. I'm not very good at promoting. I mean, they are in my bio, but here, let me give it to you here. So here's my Sovereign Wisdom book, and I just apologize in advance for this one. It's expensive. I didn't set the price. My publisher did. They get most of the money. Okay, there. I just put the link in the chat for Sovereign Wisdom, and now I'm going to put the link in the chat for Ethical Psychic, which has a reasonable price. It's about, it's for healers. Where is it? Well, let's see. Oh, here it is. So Penguin Random House distributes this. So I'll give you the Penguin Random House link. And then you can, if you go to that link, it'll show you all the ways you can buy it, like Bookshop, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, whatever. So there's the link for Ethical Psychic. It says Penguin Random House. That's the Ethical Psychic one. Yeah, I should put the links in my description. I think I have them in my bio, but I don't always remember to put them in my description. Oh, what's my Venmo? My Venmo is Jennifer Lisa Vest. It's just my full name. That's my handle on Venmo. Thank you for asking. Okay, here's someone who's read my book. I am reading Ethical Psychic, and I do like it, and I did leave a review. But if you were interested, something I really liked reading about was Dr. Vest's explanation on why many psychics see opposing things. Yeah, check it out. Okay, so I'm just looking for one last question to answer. Let's see. Yeah, I agree with this statement by Mary Ann. All of this had to happen in order to expose the rot and corruption. I think there was some effort to destroy some things, but for the most part, they weren't destroying the files because they were using them. So you can't really have leverage over somebody with, blackmail material if you destroy the blackmail material, right? So that's why they held on to this. There are a number of, lawmakers who are in the files that they're trying to control how they vote. There are different political leaders. There are different corporate people that, that was always a threat. We're going to release this. And if you don't do what we want, right? So that's why they haven't destroyed a lot of things, is because it's still useful. Oh yeah, and Laura Casey, our earlier conversation about digital money. Yeah, Teal Clown. So I'm glad to see that's in the files, because I did say that about Teal Clown like over a year ago. My guides told me that Teal Clown was all about controlling worldwide currency. And Laura is telling us that it's in the files. So that's just confirmation for me. Okay. Well, I guess I did answer a question. That was going to be my last question, but here I am looking for another question, because I'm looking for. Okay, here's a question a lot of people have. So this will be my last question. When are the results of the stolen joust going to be revealed? Oh my God, it's so annoying, right? This is a question we have all had. Now, I do recall my guide saying that that truth was going to come out. Another thing that they did say about that was that it was going to be revealed in the files. So there is proof in the files that that's what they did. They also told me that they were going to confess to it publicly, which they did, but nothing came of it. So that's the weird thing sometimes about predictions is you see that something is going to happen, and then you make assumptions about what that's going to mean. Like when I saw that they were going to publicly confess, I thought, okay, it's a wrap, right? Because typically when a criminal confesses to a crime, they get indicted, right? That's like a slam dunk. And so logically, it made sense to think, oh, once they do that, it's over. But that's not what happened. And so let me see if I can, is there anything new that I could say about this timeline? If I just tune into it right now. So I am seeing somebody like writing something down, actually, kind of like a written confession. Like it has to be that literal for people to take a confession seriously from these people. It has to be like written down very clearly. Okay, we did this. We adjusted the satellites. We changed the tabulation in these venues. We switched these choices in this way. Like it has to be all written out. And so timeline. The question is being asked about when. It feels like an after the fact thing. It feels like when I tune into the question when, what I get is we have to change the government first, and then we'll say that. Instead of it being the other way around, because you would expect it to be the other way around. Like if people find out that this circus is illegitimate, that would be sufficient reason to remove them, right? That's the logical order of things. We find out it's illegitimate and then we remove it. But what I'm hearing right now is no, we have to remove it and then we tell everybody it was illegitimate. I know it doesn't make sense, but that's the thing about, messages. We sometimes get messages that don't make sense, and if we try to twist them around so that they do make sense, then we misinterpret the message. So that's what I'm getting right now. So what that means in terms of when is, they have to be removed a different way. They're going to be removed a different way. The circus is going to be removed, and as kind of part of the processing of that change of regime, there's then going to be public discussion of what happened. And somebody does write out a confession. I don't know if it's Head Clown or Starboy or who it is, but there is someone who writes it out very clearly. This is what was done. So in terms of timeline, I don't know. I'm hearing footnote. I'm hearing like footnote to history, like the history has to happen first, and then we find out. The change in regime happens first, which I see happening this year, 2026, in the next couple of months when the apple blossoms bloom. That's what my guide said. Something, I mean, they didn't say everything was going to change. They said a major change was happening in the House of White when the apple blossoms bloom, which I have chosen to interpret as a change in circus. But it's changing before November, right? Because they also told me no midterm. So the time frame I can give is between April and November of when the circus is evacuated. That's the time frame I have for that. And because I'm being told that the revelation of that happens after that, then it would have to be after that. So I would say probably not this year, because it's after. Okay, so I'm going to have that be my last question. Thank you everyone for coming. Remember to like the video, and it helps if you like it and hype it. It helps the algorithm or whatever. So thank you all for being here, and I will see you next Thursday or in the comments of my videos. Be well, and remember to keep envisioning the future that you want to see. You got to keep that dream alive. All right. Good night.